Birds. Are they real? Probably. But I'll save that debate for a different video because today we're going to figure out if I can beat a Hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokémon Platinum using only flying type Pokémon. I'm sure by now you're all familiar with the rules of a Hardcore Nuzlocke, but if you're not, I've got a full list in the description down below. The only addition I've made to the rules is I've decided to ban Gyarados from the run, as it's far too powerful and it doesn't even have wings. Its flying typing is as fake as the birds are. I decided to pick Chimchar in order to give our soon-to-be rival Sozin Piplup, as it's the only one of the 3 starter Pokemon that won't have a weakness to flying type moves. I named the flightless little guy Dodo, then I catch my actual starter Pokemon, a Starly named Genora. She can't face this challenge alone, so I head north of Jubilife and catch a Zubat that I named Milo. He has a naughty nature which is excellent, although until he evolves, he's not going to be very useful. Our third team member will be though. A Wurmple that I catch and I name Kai. Kai thankfully evolves into a Silcoon, which means he'll evolve into a Beautifly, who's the key to defeating the first gym as he learns the move Absorb. Without Kai, this run wouldn't be possible. East of Jubilife, I run into Sozin. Sozin and I used to be best friends, but his selfish desire to become the champion of Sinnoh ruined what was once a great friendship. Now, we're bitter rivals. Well, at least he's bitter, because we easily take care of him and continue on to Orberg. Genora evolves into Staravia, and while that makes her quite intimidating, the first gym is Kai's battle. I opt to set up a Harden against Geodude, hoping he'll go for Stealth Rock, as Absorb is still such a weak move and having the extra defense for Cranidos will be useful. But he goes for Rock Throw instead, which connects and takes Kai to 13 HP. He's able to get the KO on the following turn, and the heal from Absorb as well as the level up bring him back to 31 HP. Onyx comes in, and even with him being quad weak to Grass type moves, Absorb brings him into the red. Then he hits a Rock Throw. Roark uses a potion, which he may as well have used directly on Kai because another Absorb takes out Onyx and heals him back to almost full. Last up is Cranidos, which mercifully doesn't know a rock type move. Kai is able to outspeed and hit an Absorb, but it doesn't do a whole lot of damage. Then he has his defense lowered by a Leer. I attempt to regain the defensive advantage with Harden, but he goes for another Leer. Another Harden finally sticks as he hits a Headbutt. A second Absorb brings him below half, but it looks like it's going to take 2 more to get the KO, until Kai lands a critical hit and earns us the first badge. If the crit luck had gone the other way and one of Roark's attacks crit instead, we may be on to attempt number 2 already. One of my favorite Nuzlocke strategies is to simply be luckier than my opponents. After watching Professor Rowan casually destroy this Galactic grunt, I head over to Floroma Town in Valley Windworks where I'll have another encounter. But first, we need to take care of Team Galactic. Commander Mars leads with a Zubat, so I send out Milo. He quickly wins the mirror match by nailing a critical hit wing attack for the KO. After executing my flawless luck-based strategy once again, I send in Genora to get off and intimidate. After taking a fake out, I swap into Kai, who gets hit with a couple of scratches, then he hits a Stun Spore that paralyzes Perugly. Absorb then does a laughable amount of damage, so I swap back into Genora, who gets another Intimidate in. Now paralyzed and at -4 attack, her Perugly is much less threatening. Genora stays healthy with her Oran Berry, but so does Perugly. She finally gets fully paralyzed, and Genora is able to get the KO with a wing attack. With Team Galactic cleared out, I can heroically save this little girl from being abducted by the balloon Pokemon by catching him and adding him to our team. I name him Zahir, and not only is his calm nature pretty good, but he actually has the Unburden ability instead of Aftermath, which is solid as well. We make it through Eterna Forest and run into Sozin again, or rather, he runs into us again. Oh, hello. You're a trainer too. Wow, we have so much in common. We should, do an activity together? Cynthia may have left me, but that's okay, because I met another lovely lady while out later that same night, a Hoot Hoot that I named Leo. Before taking on the second gym, I'm able to evolve her into a Noctowl, and Milo into a Golbat right at the level cap of 22. That means he can't evolve into a Crobat until after the battle, but I don't think we're going to have much trouble with the Grass-type gym either way. Milo unleashes his fury upon Gardenia's plants and gains enough EXP to level up and evolve into a Crobat after the battle, thanks to the Soothe Bell that Cheryl gave me for helping her navigate Eterna Forest. His evolution comes just in time, because the actual challenge from Eterna comes from Commander Jupiter. With the HM for cut my future ex-wife Cynthia gave me, I can enter the Team Galactic building where I find Looker ruining his own disguise the second I walk in the door. I head upstairs to face Jupiter, and I think I've got a decent plan. I lead with Leo against Zubat, and she's able to take it out with a couple of confusions while taking minimal damage from a wing attack. Her Skuntank comes in and goes for a smoke screen, which doesn't affect Leo thanks to her Keen Eye ability. This allows Leo to set up a Reflect, which won't protect us against critical hits, but at least offers some resistance. On the following turn she goes for Night Slash, but doesn't crit. Then Leo hits a Hypnosis. I swap into Milo while she's asleep and go for Pluck to steal her Citrus Berry. A second Pluck takes Skuntank to about a third. Then she wakes up and hits a Night Slash, but again, no critical hit, so Milo easily shrugs it off. Our Reflect wears off, but a third pluck does enough damage to get the KO. After saving the day, Cynthia comes back to town because she clearly couldn't stop thinking about me. She gives me a Togepi egg, which I can actually make use of in this run once it evolves. Over on Route 206, we have yet another encounter, and this one is extremely important. A Gligar. I name her Opal, and she has a jolly nature, which is incredible. She is going to be a menace. Speaking of being a menace, I finally hatched the egg Cynthia gave me and named the Togepi Iki. Behind that adorable smile lies the heart of a cold-blooded killer. When Iki grows up, she will be feared throughout Sinnoh. The mere mention of her name will cause mass panic. But for now, she is just a cute little egg. That little egg happens to have a brave nature, which is about as bad as it can get. But that's because Arceus knew that Iki would be far too powerful with a better nature, because instead of the terrible hustle ability, she has Serene Grace. Serene Grace is an incredible ability, and will really help me lean into my luck-based strategy even more. Iki must be protected at all costs. Our next challenge comes in Hearthome City, where the Ghost-type gym leader Fantina awaits us. Before taking her on, I head over to Amity Square, where they judge Pokemon based on their appearance. Thankfully, Zahir meets their standards, and we can pick up some useful items. I clear out the trainers in the gym and navigate through the darkness to get to Fantina. I lead with Opal versus her Duskull, and she starts us off with a critical hit feint attack for the KO. Her Mismagius comes in, and Opal is able to outspeed and hit a knockoff to get rid of her Citrus Berry. She hits a Confuse Ray, so I swap into Leo, who's unaffected by a Shadow Ball. She hits a Side Beam, but Leo comfortably takes it and lands a Hypnosis. I swap back into Opal as Mismagius stays asleep, and a feint attack does great damage, but it brings her into potion range. Thankfully, that doesn't end up mattering as she never wakes up, and Opal is able to get the KO on her biggest threat. Haunter is her last Pokemon and does a laughable amount of damage with Sucker Punch, then hangs on at 1 HP after a feint attack. Opal gets the KO on the following turn and made that normally difficult battle feel quite easy. As I'm leaving Hearthome City, I'm ambushed by Sozin, which is just typical behavior from him. I send in Leo to take the Intimidate from his Staravia and I set up a Reflect, but I didn't consider the scenario in which he starts going for double teams, so this can get scary pretty quickly. I send in Opal due to those double teams, and she's able to ignore the evasiveness boost with a feint attack. After 3 double teams, Sozin finally switches to Wing Attack. Opal's next feint attack takes Staravia to just 2 HP, and you may be wondering how I know it's 2 HP. Well, it's because he goes for Endeavor, which brings Opal to 2 HP. Now I'm in some serious trouble. This thing knows Quick Attack and it's used 3 double teams, so trying to land a hit to knock it out won't be easy. I send in Genora, but she misses her Quick Attack, then gets hit with an Endeavor as well. This is bad. I send in Milo, and thankfully he hits a Bite and takes it out, because I don't know what I would have done if he had gotten taken down to just 2 HP as well. From here, Milo is able to bite and pluck his way through the rest of Sozin's team. Milo really saved the day there. On the way to Veilstone, Zahir reaches True Enlightenment and evolves into a Drifblim. Of course, once I arrived in Veilstone, I realized I missed an encounter, and doubled back to catch Tenzin the Scyther. I also checked a few honey trees hoping for a female Combi, but the only ones I encountered were male, so looks like we won't be using Vespiquen. After wasting a bunch of time on that, I returned to Veilstone, and just south of the city, I'm able to get a very important item, a Razor Fang. With that, I can evolve Opal into a Gliscor. Her evolution comes just in time for the next gym battle, although I'm pretty confident my team of flying types can handle Maylene's fighting Pokemon. Milo is able to one-shot Meditite, but Machoke survives a Pluck and hits a Rock Tomb. Even with that speed drop, Milo is still faster and gets the KO with another Pluck. She sends in her Lucario, and I decide to send in Genora for an Intimidate, then swap to Leo to set up a Reflect. This probably wasn't necessary, but it's fine. I send in Tenzin, who takes a whopping 3 damage from a Force Palm, then outspeeds and takes Lucario to the red with a Brick Break. He shrugs off a Metal Claw and then earns us the win on the following turn. After I exit the gym, Dawn asks me to help her get her Pokédex back from Team Galactic. We easily defeat them, and then Looker shows up, but this time he finally does something useful by letting me have the HM for Fly. On the way to Pastoria, I catch Yang Chen the Wingull, then evolve Genora into a beastly Staraptor. Before taking on Crasher Wake, Sozin ambushes me yet again. Thanks to the move tutor here in town, Opal can knock out Staravia with a critical hit Thunderfang. He sends in his level 36 Prinplup that he chose not to evolve into an Empoleon for some reason, but this allows me to get Yang Chen some action now that she's evolved into a Pelipper. She manages to outspeed and hit a Wing Attack, but then gets hit with a Growl, so her fighting career is immediately put on hold as I swap to Zahir. After using Stockpile a few times, and being crit by a Bubble Beam and giving me a Panic Attack, Zahir gets the KO with Spit Up. I swap back to Yang Chen on an Ember from his Ponyta, then she gets the KO with a Water Pulse. Milo then comes in on a Magical Leaf from Roselia and retaliates with a Pluck, which sends Sozin packing. With that minor speed bump out of the way, it's time to turn my attention to Crasher Wake. His team is much more of an issue than our last few battles, as his Floatzel is fast and hits like a truck, all while knowing Ice Fang, which only Yang Chen can comfortably deal with. Gyarados would usually be an issue, but Opal is a near perfect counter, with her Hyper Cutter ability nullifying his Intimidate, and her 4-time super effective Thunderfang once again getting a crit for the KO. This brings out Floatzel, so I swap into Yang Chen on the Ice Fang, and as long as she doesn't get frozen, we'll be able to handle it. Turns out Crasher Wake is using the same luck-based strategy that I am. Yang Chen remains frozen after taking a crunch, but I have no choice here except to hope that she can defrost and heal up with a roost. She takes another crunch to 26 HP and it gets the defense drop to add insult to injury, but Yang Chen thaws out like the hero she is and gets off a roost. Expecting another crunch, I opt to send in Genora to get an Intimidate off while also getting rid of the defense drop on Yang Chen, then swap back into her on a Brine. Then for whatever reason he goes for an Ice Fang instead of a crunch, but we avoid any more bad luck and she heals to near full with another roost. Now it's time for her to hit back. For some reason, a Pelican with a 4x weakness to electric moves can learn Shockwave, which brings Floatzel into Citrus Berry range. A second Shockwave still manages to do enough to get the KO in spite of the Berry heal, and that just leaves Quagsire. I swap into Milo, who I've taught Natural Gift to, but even with a 4x super effective Grass move, Quagsire manages to survive. Well, so much for my big brain strategy. He heals, and after a few hits from Rock Tomb, I decide it's time to swap out Milo and send in Opal on a Rock Tomb, hoping to bait out a Water Pulse. I swap into Yang Chen, but he went for another Rock Tomb, which is unfortunate. I decide to go for Wing Attack, but Quagsire gets a crit and takes Yang Chen to just 14 HP. I was not expecting the most annoying part of this battle with Wake to be because of his f***ing Quagsire. I send in Zahir, who's able to finally end the battle with an Ominous Wind. My future ex-wife helps clear out the Psyduck blocking my path to Celestia Town, and on the way I catch a Swablu that I named Gyatso. Once I get to town, I find Team Galactic making bomb threats, so I handle the situation and save the day. This battle with Cyrus is pretty easy, but that won't be the case in the future. Now that I have access to Surf, I can make my way to Canalave City and catch a Chatot that I named Jinju. I try to cross the bridge and head over to the gym, but Sozin shows up for another battle. He tries his double team nonsense, but this time Opal is having none of it and takes out Staraptor with a few Thunderfangs. Empoleon comes in, so I go for U-turn and swap to Tenzin on a Bubble Beam. Then he lands a critical hit Brick Break for the KO. I highly recommend relying on luck. It's a foolproof strategy. I swap to Yang Chen to deal with Rapidash. Then her Wing Attack just misses a KO on Heracross and she's at risk to a crit. So I swap into Milo, who does in fact get crit by a Night Slash. Milo knocks it out, then takes care of his Roserade to earn us the win. Sozin runs off in disgrace yet again, and now I can focus on why I really wanted to come to this city. On Iron Island, I find a Shiny Stone which I can use to evolve Iki into a Togekiss. With her Serene Grace ability, she can take my luck-based strategy to a whole new level. I won't be needing any luck in order to deal with Byron though. Iki is able to Aura Sphere her way through his entire team with ease. Once I exit the gym, Sozin invades my personal space in order to tell me that we need to go to the library to meet with Professor Rowan. Turns out that Team Galactic's threats weren't empty, so now I've got to go deal with the mess that they've made. Commander Saturn is relatively easy to deal with, although her Bronzor did waste a bit of time thanks to Iron Defense. I head back to help Dawn take on Commander Mars. Her Golbat manages to land a Supersonic, which forces a switch into Yang Chen, who gets nailed with the Toxic before taking it out. She stays in to hit a Surf on Bronzor, which gets yet another fortunate crit. Most of these haven't really been necessary, but it does make things easier, so I'll take it. I swap into Genora for the Intimidate on Perugly, who hits a Fake Out that crits and does quite a bit of damage. Her Cat outspeeds, but thankfully misses a Hypnosis, then gets taken down with a close combat. I'm then told to go look for Sozin, so I scale the mountain and traverse through a blizzard, and when I finally get there, the little mocks me for not being able to use Rock Climb. In order to get up there, I'm going to need to defeat Candice, and as you can imagine, her Ice-type team is quite intimidating for my Flying types. The only one on the team that isn't weak to Ice is Yang Chen. Still, I feel like I've got a decent strategy here. I lead with Tenzin against Sneasel. He outspeeds and gets the KO with Brick Break. The real concern for me is having Abomasnow come in before Frostlass and setting up Hail, which would activate her Snow Cloak ability, but Candice sends in Frostlass now. Tenzin also coincidentally learns the move Night Slash upon level up, which is perfect timing, although it doesn't quite do enough to get the KO. According to my calcs, Tenzin should be able to survive a blizzard if she manages to hit one, which she does, and he hangs on with just 10 HP. Abomasnow comes in, so I swap to Yang Chen, who gets hit with an Avalanche. I scout out his next move with Protect, and it's a Woodhammer, so I swap into Genora for the Intimidate, but she gets hit with a crit. Thankfully, she survives and can take down the tree with a close combat. Last is Piloswine, and Genora gets another KO with close combat to earn us the badge. I'm not entirely sure why Ice-type is weak to fighting, but I'm happy it is. Turns out while the team and I were kicking butt in the gym, Sozin was busy losing to Jupiter. This time Team Galactic has gone too far. No one messes with Sozin but me. He's my punching bag, not theirs. Time to get some revenge. I make my way up to Cyrus, and while this isn't his final form yet, this battle is substantially more tricky than the previous one. I choose to lead with Opal this time and go for a U-turn, then send in Yang Chen on an Ice Punch. She then gets hit with a crit from Slash, but a Roost brings her back to nearly full health. Another Slash takes her to about half, and Surf takes down Sneasel. Sneasel. He sends in his Crobat, so I decide to do the same. Milo gets outsped but hits a Confuse Ray, while Cyrus's pathetic Crobat only has Supersonic, which misses. Milo hits a Pluck, then Crobat hits itself in Confusion, and Milo hits another Pluck that takes it into full restore range. I probably should have switched there, but I didn't consider him using that full restore, which was a mistake. I then opt to switch into Iki, who gets crit on her way in. She avoids a Supersonic and takes it low with an Ancient Power. Crobat then gets another crit with Poison Fang, but little does Cyrus know that two can play at this game, and Iki gets the Omni boost while taking out Crobat. Even with the boost, it's not quite enough to get the KO with an Ancient Power, but the Shell Bell gives Iki enough HP to survive a Drill Peck. In hindsight, I still should have switched because she was absolutely dead to a crit there. Pretty careless on my part, but Iki is alright, and she gets another Omni boost on her way out the door just for fun. Saturn tries to stop us and fails again, but this isn't over yet. In order to get to the top of Mount Coronet, I'm going to need to use a Pokemon for HMs, which means when it's finally time to battle Cyrus in the Distortion world, I'll only have 5 team members. On my way to face one of the biggest battles of the run, Looker sprints towards me in order to deliver this incredibly written line of dialogue. At the top of the mountain in Spear Pillar, I have a double battle with Sozin, who leads with his Munchlax instead of Staraptor because, of course he does. I lead with Tenzin in order to brick break the Reflect and Light Screen the Bronzor will set up. Even with a 4 times weakness to Rock Slide, Tenzin barely takes any damage from it. He gets hit with a Confuse Ray though, forcing a switch into Yang Chen. She gets a Quick Claw activation and hits a Surf and knocks out a Bronzor. Sozin is actually using his Munchlax to attack, which is shocking. I swap to Opal on a Poison Jab from Skuntank, and as soon as I praise Sozin for attacking, he uses Swallow and heals his Munchlax. Thankfully, Opal can hit Skuntank pretty hard with Earthquake, then almost gets the KO on Munchlax as well. 2 birds, 1 stone. Opal gets hit with a Confuse Ray and Sozin sends in Rapidash. I swap into Iki and Sozin Fire Blasts his Bronzor straight to hell. It goes down to a Slash, leaving Iki to get hit by a Poison Jab, which does happen to poison her. This forces a switch back into Opal, while Sozin's Staraptor obliterates Perugly with close combat. Opal then gets poisoned as well. For the first time ever, I'm actually being carried by my rival. I like to think I made this happen by helping kill his Munchlax though. I leave Opal in to get the KO with Earthquake, then his Staraptor gets poisoned by Golbat. I swap into Janora as Sozin's Staraptor goes down. Then Janora gets hit hard with a Sludge Bomb. I go for Fly in order to ensure that Heracross is the only one that gets hit by attacks, and it does just that, getting crit and being taken out immediately. Janora then gets the KO on a Golbat, leaving them with just 1 Pokemon to deal with Empoleon and Janora out. Instead of attacking, Sozin decides to increase Golbat's attack stat, because why not, right? Just kidding, buddy, you're a genius. Excellent strategy. I always believed in you. After that arduous battle, Cyrus decides to conjure up the gods of space and time, because why not? A demon emerges from the ground and opens up a portal to hell. And under normal circumstances, I wouldn't go anywhere near that thing. But for Cynthia, I'll do anything. Before chasing Cyrus into another dimension, I make one change to the team. Tenzin isn't going to be very useful against any of his Pokemon, so I add Zahir to the team before making my descent. We finally catch up to Cyrus for what I think may be the most challenging battle in the entire run. He leads with Houndoom and I send in Zahir. I could have taken it down with any number of other team members, but all of them would bait in Weavile, who outspeeds everyone on the team and hits like a truck. Zahir, however, has the Unburden ability, so his Citrus Berry activation allows him to outspeed as I set up a stockpile. I also taught him Recycle in order to get the Citrus Berry back. He gets hit with a Will-O-Wisp, which activates the berry. I set up another stockpile, which allows him to survive the Dark Pulse and the burn damage. He's too low to get another one off though, so I Baton Pass into Iki, who's already naturally bulky without the stockpile boosts. She avoids a Will-O-Wisp, then takes Houndoom low with an Aura Sphere. This puts him into heal range, so I swap to an Ancient Power hoping for an Omni boost, but no luck. Iki then gets hit with a Thunder Fang but avoids Paralysis. Then her second Ancient Power gets the Omni boost. She's now at +3 defense and special defense as Weavile comes in. He hits a Fake Out, but now Iki outspeeds and lands a 4-time super effective Aura Sphere for the KO. Gyarados comes in next, and I go for a Wish as Iki tanks an Ice Fang. She does over half with Ancient Power, then survives another Ice Fang and heals back up with Wish. Another Ancient Power gets the KO on Gyarados and Honchkrow comes in. Ancient Power just misses a KO and forces a heal. 2 Aura Spheres do the trick and Honchkrow gets taken out. Last up is Crobat. Thanks to some PP ups, Iki still has 2 more Ancient Powers and almost gets the KO with the first. She gets hit with a Toxic, but it's too late. The last Ancient Power takes out Crobat and gets another Omni boost just to add insult to injury for Cyrus. It took me a while to come up with a way to defeat his Weavile. I thought I was going to have to sacrifice someone, but Zahir came up clutch and allowed Iki to do the rest. Hey there, big fella. I saw you flying around. Do you want to join the team? I don't know what that means. I'll take that as a yes. Get in the ball. With Team Galactic defeated, it's time to take on the 8th and final gym. You'd think the electric type gym would be terrifying for my team, but Opal and her ground typing save us from a lot of pain. She gets a clean sweep through Volkner's team with Earthquakes. I find it hard to believe no one in Sinnoh provided this man with any sort of challenge. All they had to do was catch a ground-type Pokemon and spam Earthquake. I make it through Victory Road unscathed, and before taking on the Elite Four, I have to take care of Sozin one more time. I lead with Opal against the Raptor, and she's able to get the KO with a couple of Thunder Fangs after shrugging off an Aerial Ace. Empoleon comes in, so I swap to Yang Chen on a Brine. I scout out a Shadow Claw with Protect, and then send in Genora, but he switched to Metal Claw. It doesn't matter though, because she's able to get the KO with a close combat. He sends in Heracross because clearly he hates his own Pokemon. Rapidash comes in, so I swap to Yang Chen on a Fire Blast. He sets up a Sunny Day, which isn't ideal, but Yang Chen heals up with Roost. I go for Protect in order to stall out Fire Blast, but he went for a Will-O-Wisp instead. A second one connects and Surf still hits hard in spite of the sunlight. I'm not sure why I went for Protect here, but I did. Yang Chen doesn't suffer any consequences for my poor decision making, gets the KO with a Surf on the next turn. Roserade comes in, so I swap into Milo, who takes it out with a Pluck. Snorlax comes in and Milo hits it with a Confuse Ray and it hurts itself in confusion. It snaps out on the following turn and hits a Body Slam, so I swap into Genora, who's able to finish it off with a close combat. With Sozin defeated, it's time to strategize for the Elite Four. Here's the team I'm bringing to the fight. I ended up swapping Milo for Zahir because I didn't see too many situations where he would be all that useful. Thank you for helping us get here, Milo. We'll make sure to win in your honor. First up is Aaron. Genora doesn't quite get the KO with an Aerial Ace, but it does allow her to ignore Yanmega's double teams. After he heals, Genora lands a crit and gets the KO. You didn't think I would abandon my strategy now, did you? It got us here, and it's going to lead us to victory. Drapion comes in, so I swap to Yang Chen on a Cross Poison. I scout out the next move with Protect, then hit a Surf after taking another Cross Poison. She activates his Citrus Berry, and now I can swap to Opal. Earthquake wasn't quite a one-hit KO from full HP, but it is from here. Scizor comes in, so I swap into Iki, who I've taught Flamethrower to, and she torches it. Vespiquen comes out and it knows a Rock-type move, so I opt to go for Wish before switching into Opal. Was it necessary? Absolutely not, but sometimes I like to show off. Rock Slide gets the KO and Heracross comes in. I can't really switch anyone in case it goes for Stone Edge, so I go for Earthquake, which doesn't do much. And he does in fact go for Stone Edge. I switch to Rock Slide, which gets the flinch, then another finishes Heracross. Second is Bertha. Yang Chen will be able to deal with most of her team with her Choice Specs boosted Surfs, but her Gliscor has Thunderfang. She chooses to send in Golem and Rhyperior first though, and they both go down to Surf. Gliscor comes in, so I swap into mine on a Thunderfang. Opal outspeeds and hits an Ice Fang, but it isn't going to do enough damage to get the KO. That doesn't matter though, as Opal gets a Clutch Freeze, which allows her to avoid getting hit by an Ice Fang in retaliation. Bertha heals, but it doesn't matter as her Gliscor goes down. Opal hits an Ice Fang on her Apoudon, but she gets hit with a Yawn, so it's back to Yang Chen, who fortunately avoids a Stone Edge. One more Surf does the job and we're on to the next one. Flint is third, and this shouldn't come as much of a shock to find out that his entire team gets swept by Opal spamming Earthquake. Eventually I'll attempt a Grass-type run, and maybe then the Flint battle will be worth narrating. Last of the Elite Four is Lucian, and his battles are definitely worth narrating. I lead with Tenzin against Mr. Mime and take it down with an X-Scissor. He sends in Gallade, so I swap to Opal on a Stone Edge. Her moves aren't really great for this matchup, so I opt for a Thunderfang, and wouldn't you know it, we get the Paralysis. I swap into Genora now that Gallade isn't going to go for Stone Edge and get the KO with Brave Bird. Alakazam comes in, so I swap into Iki, who can tank the Psychic. I go for Wish and avoid a crit, and then swap into Tenzin. He switched to Focus Blast instead of Psychic, so Tenzin ends up being at full HP after the Wish comes true. Alakazam still outspeeds and hits hard with a Psychic, but Tenzin survives and gets the KO with X-Scissor. Espeon comes in, but Tenzin is faster and gets another KO. Bronzong is last and it hits pretty hard with Psychic, so I decide it's time to let Zahir get in on the fun. His moves are just a little bit different this time around, and Shadow Ball takes Bronzong low and gets a special defense drop. Lucian heals, but Zahir gets a crit and takes out Bronzong. It's all come down to this, the final battle of the run. Cynthia leads with her Spiritomb and I send in Iki. I have two plans of attack just in case she doesn't get herself an Omni Boost, but she does on the first Ancient Power. Serene Grace is incredible. I switch to Flamethrower in order to avoid using too many Ancient Powers thanks to his pressure ability. Flamethrower gets the burn, but just misses the KO, so she uses a full restore. I take the opportunity to go for a Wish, then go for another Ancient Power hoping for another Omni Boost, but no luck this time. I switch back to Flamethrower and miss another KO, but get the burn yet again, and this time it takes out Spiritomb. She sends in her own Togekiss, but Iki is stronger and faster now, and after two Ancient Powers she gets the KO and another Omni Boost. Lucario comes in, but Iki is now a monster, and she's able to get the KO with a Flamethrower. Milotic comes in, and this is actually a problem. I opt to go for Wish, and Iki tanks an Ice Beam. I try to get another Omni Boost with my last Ancient Power, but no luck there. Then, uh-oh. That is depressing. Rest in peace, Iki. We won't let you down. Tenzin comes in and I've taught him Natural Gift, but it doesn't do quite enough damage and my Lodic survives. This puts it into heal range and things are getting a bit scary. After a few hits from X-Scissor, I take her back to the red. Then Tenzin survives an Ice Beam before getting the KO. This brings out her Garchomp. I could sacrifice Tenzin here, but I'm confident Yang Chen can handle this. I send her in and she gets crit by a Flamethrower, so not great. I go for Protect to scout out the next move and it's a Dragon Rush. I swap into Opal who survives a hit from it and lands an Ice Fang, which only brings Garchomp into berry range. She hits another Dragon Rush and Opal survives with just 6 HP. She thankfully doesn't miss her 95% accurate Ice Fang and gets the KO on the next turn. Roserade is her final Pokemon, and what better way to end the run with her nominal starter, Genora. Well, that's awkward, huh? Thankfully I didn't sacrifice Tenzin because he comes in to save the day with an Aerial Ace. That run was a lot of fun. I got very close to the Deathless run, but like most Platinum Nuzlockes, I couldn't escape the wrath of Cynthia. Still, my definitely real, non-mechanical birds really showed how powerful they can be. You may have noticed I entered the Elite Four under the level cap by 1. Generally when I get to the Elite Four Deathless, I'm going to try to spice up the challenge a bit by being a little under the cap. I can't always manage this depending on the run. Sometimes it would make things impossible. But I thought this time it would make things a little more interesting. Anyways, if you've made it this far, I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider giving it a like. And if you want to see more content like this, subscribe to the channel as well. It's about time for me to head out. Thanks for watching, and I'll smell you later.